My name is Isabella. I'm 36 years old, living in a quiet town on the outskirts of Denver, Colorado. I work as an accounting assistant for a medical equipment supplier, balancing spreadsheets by day and managing our small, orderly home by night. No kids, no chaos, just me and my husband, Tyler. Tyler is also 36, a sales team leader at a major real estate firm. He has that effortless polish people admire, the confident smile, the tailored shirts, the faint trail of expensive cologne that lingers after he leaves a room. From the outside, our life probably looks fortunate, even enviable. But what no one sees is how cold this house feels once the doors are closed and the lights go dim. That day was supposed to matter, June 12th, our wedding anniversary. 8 years since we promised forever, and Tyler's birthday, too. I left work early, drove more than half an hour just to pick up his favorite red wine, stopped at a specialty butcher to buy Wagyu short ribs I could barely afford. I wasn't a great cook, but I tried anyway. I strung soft lights along the balcony, smoothed an ivory tablecloth across the table, lined up the silverware until everything looked perfectly intentional. The cake sat waiting in the fridge, vanilla frosting smooth and untouched, a simple message written on top. To Tyler, happy birthday and anniversary. By 7 p.m., I adjusted my dress, dabbed perfume behind my ears, and took my seat at the table. I truly believed he'd come home. At 8, I lit the candles. At 9, I sent a text, I'm waiting, no reply. At 9:30, I called. 5 rings. Voicemail. Then at exactly 10:35 p.m., an email arrived. Short, detached. Sorry, big client emergency, I have to stay at the office. We'll make it up later. No thank you. No happy anniversary. I set the phone down slowly. The candles had burned themselves out. The cake remained untouched. I stood there, under the warm dining room lights, still holding the napkin I'd folded for him, and felt something shift inside my chest. Not breaking, just sliding quietly out of place. That night, I packed everything away. The meat went into containers, the lights came down, the table was wiped clean. There was no dinner, no celebration. I crawled into bed close to midnight, still wearing the dress I'd chosen just for him. Sleep wouldn't come. That email replayed in my mind again and again, dull and cutting. He'd come home late before, I'd waited before, but this time felt different, like the warning chill before a storm you can't stop. The next morning, I went to work as usual. Hours passed without a single message from Tyler. I called him once, twice, nothing. By noon, a knot had settled in my stomach. I called his office. The receptionist hesitated before speaking. Oh, he resigned 3 days ago. No forwarding information. I stood frozen in the hallway, the air suddenly thick. In that moment, everything rewound in my mind, and the truth landed hard. This wasn't about work. He hadn't stayed late. He had chosen to disappear, and I was the last to know. I drove home straight after work, every turn of the wheel feeling heavier than the last. When I unlocked the door to our third-floor apartment, silence swallowed me whole. My eyes went straight to the shoe rack. One space was empty. Tyler's brown leather shoes were gone. I called his name. No answer. In the bedroom, my heart dropped. He stood beside an open suitcase, clothes shoved into a duffel bag, a navy suit, a tie, brand new shoes with the tag still on. Clothes he never wore for ordinary meetings. "What are you doing?" I asked. He looked at me like a stranger who'd wandered into the wrong room. "You're back," he said flatly, then kept packing. "Where are you going?" "Next chapter over," he replied, casual as if he were discussing groceries. "I accepted a job in Albuquerque." I froze. "You quit your job without telling me?" He didn't answer. Instead, he pulled a thin folder from his bag and laid it on the table. Divorce papers. My hands shook as I stared at them. "Tyler, what is this?" "You're not the wife I need anymore," he said, his eyes cold. I tried to speak, my words tumbling out. I work, I pay half the rent, I try. He cut me off. You put work first. The house is dusty, you only cook on weekends, you don't care about me anymore. I laughed bitterly. You come home late, you say you've already eaten, you tell me not to touch your desk, and now this is my fault? Don't argue, he snapped. A real wife doesn't need reminders. He zipped the suitcase and headed for the door. I don't owe you anything, he said as he brushed past me. The door closed behind him with a final click that echoed through the apartment. 2 days later, building management called. Mrs. Isabella, the leaseholder has requested termination. They left a note. I no longer live there. The person staying behind will move out by the end of the month. That night, I found receipts in the desk drawer. Almost everything was in my name. Furniture, appliances, even the fridge. He'd taken only his clothes and a few gadgets. He left like a stranger, and that coldness finally woke me up. I didn't sign the papers right away. They sat on the table for days. Then came the high school reunion invitation I'd nearly forgotten about. I almost stayed home, but instead I dressed simply and went. I reminded myself I still existed. At the brewery, laughter filled the air. I ran into Nathan, an old classmate, divorced, raising his daughter alone. We talked quietly. When he asked about Tyler, I said only, "We're getting divorced." No pity. He nodded and let it rest. Driving home that night, an old song came on the radio, and everything clicked into place. All the ignored messages, the cold dinners, the excuses I'd made for years. Sunday morning, Tyler called. He told me to pack. I told him calmly that I'd sign. "Don't call again," I said. Then I hung up. I signed the papers without shaking. A week after my attorney filed everything, Tyler sent me an email close to 10 p.m. The subject line read, "Proof." I opened it. A photo filled the screen. A marriage certificate. Groom, Tyler Robert James. Bride, Marissa Ellis Whitmore. Stamped in deep red at the bottom. Bernalillo County, New Mexico. Date of registration. Exactly 1 day after the court finalized our divorce. Before I could react, my phone rang. He called right after sending it. I picked up. Tyler's voice came through disturbingly triumphant. "You saw it, right? I got remarried. Life's never been better." I didn't speak, I just listened. And deep inside, something quiet began to shift. Her name's Marissa, 36, just like you, but she's mature, gentle, and, he paused, so beautiful you'd be jealous. I stayed silent. She's the only daughter of the family that owns the Whitmore real estate chain in Santa Fe. Her parents built us a small house near the Southern Hills. And the job? Her family helped me become the executive vice president at her company. "So that's why you needed the divorce so quickly?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Not entirely," he replied. "I just couldn't keep living with a woman who always put work first and neglected her role as a wife." I let out a quiet laugh. "And your new wife? She doesn't work. She chose to take care of the home." "And we're expecting a baby girl," Tyler said smugly. "She's 3 months pregnant." Each sentence he said felt like a dull blade severing the final thread that had once tied me to that marriage. But instead of pain, all I felt was a hollow stillness. Marissa Whitmore. I repeated the name after hanging up. It wasn't unfamiliar. I opened Facebook and typed it in. Her profile came up almost instantly. The profile photo showed a stunning woman with soft blonde waves, sharp blue eyes, and a smile that could make anyone feel small. I scrolled down, and then on the 10th photo, I froze. Marissa was the girl who went to high school with me for 3 years. Back then, her name was Marissa Ellis, not Whitmore. She was scrawny, had squinty eyes, a flat nose, and blotchy skin from makeup allergies. She used to sit in the back, barely spoke, and often got picked on by classmates. No way! I reopened the wedding photo Tyler had sent in the email. The bride in that picture looked like an entirely different person. Not a trace of the old Marissa Ellis remained. But I remembered those eyes, that slightly crooked tooth she used to get teased for. Bunny teeth. The way she always looked down when walking through the hallway. How could I forget? I called Lana, my best friend from high school. "Do you remember Marissa Ellis?" I asked. There was a pause on the other end. Then Lana laughed. "Not only do I remember her, I still have a picture of her from senior year. Why are you suddenly bringing her up?" I told her everything about Tyler, about the new marriage, the gifted house, the magically acquired executive title. Lena wasn't surprised. She changed completely after moving to New York to study art, went through multiple plastic surgeries. Chin, nose, eyes, jawline. People called her Marissa too. But her personality still the same. Quiet, calculating, and very strategic about who she latches onto. I said nothing. There was a rumor she got involved with a much older married architect in Brooklyn, Lana added. Then she moved back to New Mexico and opened an art gallery. Guess she's leveled up now. I had no more questions. That night, I sat in my living room staring at Tyler and Marissa's wedding photo. Everything in the frames sparkled. Flowers, white dress, perfectly aligned teeth in her bright smile. But I knew behind all that was layers of makeup, carefully crafted image, and a well-disguised motive. And he chose that. 1 week after Tyler's bragging call, I got a message from an unknown number. It was short. "Isabella, are you free? I need to talk. It's serious." I knew exactly who it was. I didn't respond. 15 minutes later, he called. I picked up because something told me it would be worth hearing. "Marissa gave birth," Tyler said immediately. "A baby girl." I heard him swallow hard, then silence. I waited. "She doesn't look like me or Marissa. Actually, she doesn't look like either of us." I tightened my grip on the phone, lips pressed together to stop myself from laughing. "Maybe she takes after someone on your side of the family," I offered, light as air. "No, I thought that too, but Isabella, do you remember when you laughed hysterically after I told you about Marissa? You knew something, didn't you?" Tyler's voice suddenly rose, nervous and panicked. I leaned back in my chair, a slight smirk on my lips. "I just found it interesting," I replied, holding back the sharpness in my tone. "Stop joking. I did a DNA test. The baby is mine, but I still don't get it. Why doesn't she look like either of us? I haven't told anyone but you. You laughed like you knew something. Please tell me." I gave a quiet kickle. My voice was calm. "Do you remember your high school graduation album?" Silence. I continued. "I found it while packing up the old apartment. It was buried at the bottom of your desk drawer, covered in dust." "You were digging through my stuff?" Tyler sounded slightly irritated. "No, I was cleaning as you requested," I emphasized. "And when I opened that album, I was stunned. A curly-haired boy with squinty eyes, crooked teeth, and acne-covered skin. It took me a few minutes to realize it was you." Tyler exhaled slowly. "I always wondered why in 8 years you never introduced me to your college friends, why you insisted on a small wedding with no friends, why there wasn't a single teenage photo in our home. Now I understand." "I changed out of insecurity," he said quietly. "No, you changed because you wanted to live a new life, but you forgot one simple truth. Genetics can't be altered." Silence stretched out between us. "You think I'm ashamed of who I was?" "No," I said. "I feel sorry for an innocent child who's going to grow up with 2 parents who couldn't be honest. You hid your past, so did Marissa, and now you're surprised your daughter doesn't resemble the edited versions you both constructed. You think she's going to look like that old version of me?" Tyler's voice wavered. "No one knows, but she will carry what's real in you, your blood, your DNA, everything you've tried to erase." I could hear him inhale deeply. "What about Marissa?" I asked, cutting in one last time. "She cried, said she was exhausted from labor, but you know what's worse? What the? She won't hold the baby. Every time she looks at the child's face, she turns away. Yesterday, her mom had to step in and hold the baby because she refused. I don't know what to do." I stayed quiet. A bitter heaviness rose in my chest. Not for Tyler, but for a child already rejected by the very people who brought her into this world. I lowered my voice. "You once said I failed as a wife because I wasn't willing to sacrifice, but the one rejecting his role as a father is you." Tyler sighed, maybe about to speak again, but I stopped him. "You don't need advice from me. I just hope you don't project your shame onto that baby. She didn't do anything wrong." I ended the call before he could reply. Then I blocked his number. There was nothing more I needed to hear. Nearly a year after my final conversation with Tyler, I barely remembered his presence in my life. Not because I tried to forget, but because the life I built after him filled every empty space he left behind. I moved into a small apartment in Boulder, just a 10-minute walk from the office. The balcony overlooked green hills with just enough sun to grow a few pots of herbs. Mornings no longer felt like something to dread. I'd wake early, make coffee, and breathe. I kept my current job, but reduced my hours. I chose a life of balance instead of burnout, chasing things that were never meant for me. I enrolled in a weekend art class and reconnected with old friends, one of whom was Nathan, the guy I had met at the reunion. We didn't tie each other down with promises or expectations, just quiet afternoons and simple companionship between two people who valued peace. I no longer checked on Tyler, but life has a strange way of updating you about people who once stepped out of it. One early autumn afternoon, I ran into Lana at a used bookstore. After a few casual greetings, she leaned in and whispered, "You haven't heard anything about Tyler, have you?" I shook my head slightly. "Marissa is looking for a divorce attorney." I raised an eyebrow, unsurprised. "Word is Tyler cheated again," Lana continued, "with a new hire at his wife's company. Marissa found out 3 months ago, but kept quiet for the child's sake." "The child?" I asked. "Their daughter. She's almost 3 now, but it gets worse." Lana showed me a screenshot from a friend in a preschool parent group. "There's a new girl in class. Her mom had full plastic surgery. Somehow, the kids found out and started teasing her, saying, 'Your mom used to be ugly.' The poor thing cried all week." I stared at the message, heart sinking. Even though I no longer cared about Tyler or Marissa, thinking of a child being bullied for choices that weren't hers broke something in me. Sadness? Anger? Both. "Marissa regrets having the baby," Lana added. "She thought the child would inherit her post-surgery beauty, but now it's obvious the girl carries the original genes." I said nothing because, honestly, there was nothing left to say. Tyler and Marissa once chose a version of life wrapped in glitter, built on illusions of beauty, status, and control. But in the end, what couldn't be hidden, the past, the truth, and the way they treated others, was what showed up the clearest when they had a child. I returned to my afternoon, picked up a small croissant from the bakery, and strolled home through the park, where golden light streamed through patches of grass. My life now has no drama, no major twists, but it has rhythm, autonomy, and a fullness I once thought I'd never touch. Sometimes I still reflect on what I've been through: 8 years of marriage, a sudden divorce, a shameless betrayal, and the unmasking behind all that flawless makeup. But I no longer feel bitterness. I feel gratitude, because that collapse gave me the chance to be reborn, not into someone new, but into myself. No compromises, no avoidance, no pretending to be okay. If anyone ever asked me whether I've forgiven Tyler, I'll probably smile and say, I don't need to forgive anyone. I just need to live true to myself. And for the first time in years, I can say that without hesitation. Isabella's story is a reminder that appearances may fool the world, but time always reveals the truth. When she was betrayed and discarded for not being perfect, she didn't seek revenge or beg for closure. She walked away quietly and rebuilt her life from the inside out. In the end, those who lived a lie had to face the consequences they created, while Isabella found freedom, peace, and her true self, something no amount of cosmetic surgery could ever buy. What do you think of Isabella's choices and the downfall of those who lived a lie? Share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to follow the channel for more powerful and surprising stories about family.